Right, okay, let's do it. Are you ready, Jerry?
I'm ready.
Of course you're ready. Welcome to the Tailoring Talk Show with your host, Roberto Revilla, bespoke tailor, menswear designer, and owner of Roberto Revilla London Custom Clothing and Footwear. I activate your superpowers through the clothing I create and the conversations on this podcast. We'll meet self-starters and creators to learn about their journeys while they share valuable lessons to help you be the very best that you can be. Please support the show by subscribing, and it helps so much if you take a few seconds to leave a rating and review. Today's guest is known for helping realtors and small business owners to unlock their pathway to success through creating accelerating systems of habits and total mindset alignment. Featured in Fox, CBS, and NBC, he's going to help you become unstoppable and achieve greater results with less effort. Tailoring Talkers, please welcome Joey Drolshagen to Tailoring Talk. Joey, how are you?
I'm doing really well, Roberto. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm okay, despite the fact it's really hot here in London. It's muggy. I'm sweating like anything, and I completely messed up my intro, but hopefully I'll be able to edit all of that stuff out. And you were very, very gracious. There's something that I want to ask you, actually, before I introduce you properly to our guests and they get to know you. In our pre-talk, you mentioned pickleball, and I was like, so Joey was saying he was playing pickleball, and in the morning it's like 60 degrees and it was fine. And then he played later in the day, and then it was hotter and it wasn't so fine. And there's me just politely being very English and agreeing with him, like, yeah, pickleball. Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what that's like at 60 degrees and at 90 degrees. Dude, what the hell is pickleball?
Oh, so it's not big over there yet. It started out as like an elder sport here. It's kind of like
Oh,
tennis on a shorter court, and you're using paddles instead of rackets.
whoa. Yeah. I think I've seen this on TV. Yeah.
It's gotten so big now. Like every
Mm,
community is doing inside courts and competitions, and I mean, it's
yeah.
it's just growing like wildfire.
It's like weird table tennis,
It
kind
is, but
of.
you have a net that you're playing, and,
Yeah.
and I'm telling you, it's so much fun. And, and
Yeah.
and and you don't have to be like a superstar athletic to play it, like a tennis thing or something like that. And yeah, it's just so much fun to play.
Yeah.
And great exercise too.
Yeah, I bet. So I learned a new sport which I think has come over from your fair land. Although to be fair, America is kind of a funny place because it's so big, and there are some states that maybe have got some kind of alignment with each other. We'll be talking about
Mhm.
alignment later. See what I
Yes, we
did
will.
there. But then there are a lot of states that are like different countries, never mind states, right? Like the mentality of the people's different and so on anyway. So I don't know where this sport came from. For some reason, I want to say it's like deep south or something, or whatever. But I think it's called cornhole. Like
Oh, yeah, yeah.
yeah. So you have like these four sacks and a board, and then a hole in the board, and then you get 1 point if your sack lands on the board, and you get 3 points if the sack goes in the hole. And it's like the
Yes,
first to 21 or something, but you can't
yes.
bust. Yeah, we played that last
Great game.
weekend.
A little bit less activity than pickleball, but still a lot
Yeah,
of fun.
yeah, loads of skill involved.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's competitions for that as well.
Yeah. I got really good at it. I wasn't so
Have
good
you?
to start with. Well, when everybody it was at a barbecue, and then when everybody sort of got bored of it, because we then did a big cornhole tournament, I got to the
Mhm.
semi-finals. And then
Oh, good for you.
afterwards, I just started practicing on my own. And then some of the guys came back over and like, oh, let's play again. But,
Yeah.
I was like cornholing one after the other, just like in a row, just like bang,
Wow,
bang, bang, bang,
impressive.
bang. Yeah, they just walked off and gave up.
Now you know where that really grew from. Like when I was a kid, and this is showing my age, is we used to have the lawn darts, which were like darts with a
Uh-huh.
metal point to it, and you had a ring you put, and you would
Uh-huh.
throw them and try and get them into, if you got it inside of there, it would be so many points. It kind of
Yeah.
like evolved from that. And I guess from the lawn darts, so many people got stuck with them and stuff. They thought maybe this isn't such a safe game for kids to play.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where they came up with the little bean bags, right?
Yeah, it seems like it came out of there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, at one point
I
I
don't
was
know if
trying
I'm
to,
accurate with that, Roberto, or if I'm just making that up, but I could see where it would flow from one to the other.
I don't think those bean bags are that safe, because at one point I was behind the board to kind of get some video footage of the girls playing, and my wife went up to, I mean, she literally threw it like a baseball pitcher, and got me straight in the nuts, and it really freaking hurt.
That
Anyway,
probably
sorry.
had nothing to do with the game. You must have said something that upset her somewhere within the last hour from then.
Oh no, no, no. I mean, I do. I probably do every time I breathe. The poor lady. We're coming coming up to our 15th wedding anniversary in a few weeks' time, and
Nice.
Lord knows she has the patience of a saint.
Yeah.
Joey, hi.
Yes.
So you are in South Carolina.
I am originally from Michigan, from Detroit.
Oh wow. From
Yeah.
Detroit, from Motor City.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I moved around the United States quite a bit.
Yeah.
I had a 28-year career in corporate America doing
Yeah.
sales and up to a vice president of sales. And then later on helping organizations and like 150, 250, $500 million organizations that were in bankruptcy to get back into profitability. And so
Wow.
I did that because I was taught, and we'll talk about conditioning, but I was taught that a man gets a job and supports a family and hopefully lives long enough to enjoy some retirement. And growing up in Detroit, the auto mecca of the world at the time, my community, most of my family, everything was blue collar, and I
Yeah.
didn't want to live that life. So breaking into white collar was a breakaway from the norm for me.
Yeah.
And I was good at what I did, but it's never what I wanted to do. At 22 years old, I lit this fuse. I watched my parents struggle my entire youth, and in my 20s, I noticed I started carrying that same conditioning, those same patterns into my life. And Roberto, if something came easy to me in my early 20s, I thought I didn't deserve it, and I didn't work
Right.
hard enough for it. And
Yeah.
so that's where I started out, and I started on this quest to improve my life. And it's been a continuum from 22 through today. It's led up to me resigning from corporate America, getting multiple certifications in the works that I do today, and out helping business owners to truly thrive in their business. And we'll talk about what I mean by that in a little bit, but then allow them to have that free time. I watched my parents, work as many hours as they could, and just the exhaustion and how that played out in their relationship and time with us and everything else. And they were good people, but they didn't know any different. Today, I know
Yeah.
different, and I can help business owners experience a different outcome than that.
Yeah. Wow. It's really funny. My mum and dad, I mean, it was a struggle. And I mean, to the point where, just to give it, because listeners will be rolling their eyes because they've heard the story 120 times now. But, to give you one example, when I was 5 years old, I remember my sister was born, and I was obviously really excited for the baby to come home. And my dad was on the phone to the hospital, my mum, and he said, "You need to stay there because I can't barely afford to feed this one." And obviously, he was talking about me, and
Yeah.
keep a roof over our heads. So you do whatever you need to do, feign illness, whatever, but I cannot afford to feed four mouths right now.
Yeah.
You need to stay in that hospital for as long as you can with the baby. And that was
Wow.
right. So that tells you a lot.
And you were how old?
I was 5 at the time.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That had to be impressionable on you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
extremely. And
extremely.
then my
Yeah.
dad, his business, he was in floor coverings, and
Hmm.
so he used to pick me up in his van after school. So all my friends would either walk home together or, whatever. My dad would turn up in an old gas van, that he bought in an auction, kind of ripped all the letters off it and then used
Yeah.
that to carry carpets and stuff around. And I knew if he turned up in the van, it meant that he had jobs to go to and he wanted me to go and help him. So he'd say, have you done your homework? Have you been given homework? And if I'd said yes, he probably would have dropped me home. But
Yeah.
I knew that he needed my help. But also I was kind of scared of him as a disciplinarian. And
Sure.
so I would just say, no, no, I did all my homework during my lunch hour, so I don't have anything. And then I would have to get in the back of the van, go work with him till sometimes midnight, come home. And then if he found out that I did have homework, he probably would have beaten me for lying to him. So then I used to do my homework at like 2 a.m, like by pen
Yeah.
light under the
Yeah.
covers,
Yeah.
and that was basically me growing up. I
Yeah.
just decided I didn't want that. um, the funny thing is that I probably work in terms of time as hard as he did. It's just I've done the one thing that I wanted to do, which was to outgrow him or do better than he did. And
Yes.
so, I turn over, um, probably more in a month than he did in an entire year. Um, but that doesn't really give me any satisfaction. It's just that I wanted to kind of do things a little bit smarter maybe than he did. But the one thing that I'm always, kind of searching for the answers to, it's like a big Rubik's cube, right? Business is like that and life is like that. Just when you think you've got two or three sides figured out, you've knocked the rest out. The other three sides are out of kilter. So you're always trying to do this juggling act of trying to get all the sides to align and match up, which I guess we're going to kind of get into. And I know, now I'm going on about myself, but I know that a lot of my listeners who are business owners, entrepreneurs, whatever, they all have exactly the same problem. So when you go past what people put out there on social media, that they're living their best lives and so on, when you talk to a lot of self-starters and entrepreneurs about what life is really like beyond the beach photos, and I'm doing this at the weekend with my kids and whatever, the truth is they're actually chained to their businesses and they are working their asses off 6 or 7 days a week. And they
Yeah,
don't know how to break that cycle.
and everything you explained through there from the time, and I have my stories and my experiences and stuff, but everything you explained with the van and with your dad and afraid about and like all that stuff, we have so much in common, but it also, all of that stuff is conditioning. All of that stuff states our beliefs based on what we're told, the experiences we experience, how we perceive those experiences as far as the information they're giving us. And you had said that is, you work different than your dad did. But I mean, we have so much available to us to help us do things differently than they did. We can't help but to surpass them with any effort at all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when you look at it, the hustling, the working so hard, I'll work with business owners, and one of the hard things they have shifting in their beliefs is because they know what they consider successful business owners based on the money they have, the revenue they make and things like that, who tell them, man, it's not worth it because you trade off your whole life for it. And they believe that. And we believe we don't even have to experience it, Roberto. We take on these beliefs and live through those as absolutes without ever even testing it for ourselves. So when I'm working with somebody who now he started out with one business, he now has 3 different businesses he's operating. They're all 3 successful, and it's easy. And he has 3 kids, and he goes to all of their events, and he takes right every 2.5 months, he'll take a week and go down to the ocean and with his family and things like that. And it's like, man, and when he goes back and tries to tell his friends, you don't have to live like this, they do not have an open mind to see it any different, because that is their truth, is you have to, just like you said, you're chained to your business first and foremost above anything else. And this is how I have to live. This is my sacrifice for having a successful business. But that's not true if we have an open mind to look at something different. And I'm telling you, I've had multiple businesses throughout my life. I've had multiple construction companies. I was a builder. I've done real estate. I've done like all these different things that I've done. And a lot of them, because of that. Now, I would work full-time on a traveling job, developing territories. I went back to school to finish my degree. I just finished building a home. I had a 4-year-old son who was just getting ready for kindergarten. And I decided in there that in my spare time, I was going to get my pilot's license. Because if I had spare time and I wasn't filling it with something, then I thought I wasn't living the right way. I thought I wasn't being, as productive as I could be. And I lived like years for that, beating myself down. And I think one of the things that really helped me take this step is when I shifted from building sales territories to a vice president of sales, helping organizations in bankruptcy back to profitability. Roberto, I hated weekends. I could not stand a weekend because there's no activity I could take on a Saturday or a Sunday. And it was so miserable having that downtime like that. It's really, and I was building this set of tools, and I knew about positive thinking, and I knew about all this other stuff and balance in life and everything else, but it's when I understood the subconscious and the power that holds in our life, and how there's a motherboard that holds all of our programming, our beliefs, our, experiences. We don't even have to experience it. What other people have told us is all in there. And that not only is a voice we hear in our head, but that subconscious, I call it a motherboard in our subconscious, is what triggers our brain waves to the actions we take and don't take. So if I'm living my life where I have to be productive all the time in order to be important enough, if I have something that comes up to go fishing or do something that's recharging, that's really probably the most productive thing I could do, you know, my subconscious will not trigger those brain waves for me to do it. What it will do is trigger responses where I start hearing, quit being lazy. You could be
Yeah.
accomplishing something in this time rather than sitting around, or a business idea. Who do you think you are? How do you think? Most people I come across, their conditioning is there's no way I can have a really successful business and it be fun and easy to do. There's no way that's possible. And there's no way I can have a successful business and free time to enjoy my life and enjoy what that business is reaping me. There's no way I can do that. And so we have to reshift that. And my entire subconscious mindset training, or SMT method, is all about identifying what those are and then shifting those, changing those perceptions. And in doing so, Roberto, I'm not kidding when I say it instantly starts opening up the door to receive, to allow for greater potential and greater results to start showing up with less effort on our part.
Yeah. Because I think part of that, the kind of conditioning thought process and so on, is that people say, well, I wouldn't, what I do in my business, I couldn't go and work for someone else. I wouldn't do anything else. I am doing what I actually love, but I don't feel like I can really go out and properly enjoy myself until I've moved from a place of, needing to do this, needing to do that, having to be in the business all the time. If I had a state of abundance, then yeah, I could enjoy it and I could maybe take some time off and so on. But even, just the thought of taking 2 weeks away. So again, to use myself as an example, if I may. So my business is now 12 years old. It's doing well. It has grown year on year and continues to, thank God, and me for all the effort, and my wife too. And this year I reached burnout, like complete. I'm out of gas. I was out of gas 2 months ago and I was still going at 200 miles an hour. And then the engine exploded to the point where I was like, I'm done. I don't want to see anyone. I don't want to do anything for anyone. I'm booking a flight. I'm booking the best damn hotel I can find on a beach in the middle of the Mediterranean, and I am gone. I am out of here. And you know what? I don't care what happens because I can't do this anymore. And that's it. I was gone.
What
Second
happened when
half
you
of
did
August.
that? What happened with your business when you did that? Did it go down?
No, it was fine.
Yeah.
It's in fact, actually, we got busier because obviously it
Yeah.
created a.
Your head, that's what I was hoping to get to, Roberto. Your head will tell you, now my business is going to drop down. So I hang glide. One of the things I'm really big into doing is I understand that my fears, all they're doing is strengthening me. So I thought I was afraid of heights. Now, even saying that as a pilot and stuff like that, I thought I was afraid of heights. So after COVID hit and everything shut down, it was like, man, I want to go outside. I live in the mountains, so I can go for trout fishing, but I want to. So I took up hang gliding. And last October, I took my first run off of a 2,000-foot mountaintop strapped to a hang glider.
Oh my God, look
And
at
that
you.
fear in that. So what? And that fear in that, when it was so intense, going, don't do this. Don't. I could hear it inside. The second step, there's like 4 steps before I'm literally like the ramp is like this. It's just like a
Yeah.
round, and you're up here and you just walk off until there's nothing else to walk on.
Yeah. No, I know.
and
I've seen enough Tom Cruise movies.
yeah, okay. So the first step is fearful. The second step, I could feel my heart beating in my throat. It was like everything inside me. But the moment my feet left the ground, it was just this amazing, incredible feeling I couldn't even describe.
Yeah, I
But
bet.
I want to do it over and over and over. And there's times when I get tied in with business, and I'll start getting that mind, the logical thinking will start going with trying to figure out everything. And I'll go hang gliding. And do you know, every time I do that, something will come out of the blue, a business opportunity or something will show up. And it's like when we get into that flow state of that, all of a sudden we talk about coincidences, right? Where things line up that we can't control through our logical mind and they just come together and beautifully. Or we talk about like out of the blue things that happen and stuff like that. And for most people, it's every once in a while those things happen. But we literally have the power to create those over and over and over on a daily basis in our life. But we have to get into that alignment and that balance and all of that stuff in order to do so. one of the things that I do different in my coaching than almost, and I've been through a lot of programs. I talk with a lot of coaches. I speak on same stages, things like that. And one of the things that differs is I don't have your roadmap and your success plan and you do A, B, and C and you get D. I don't do that. And the reason I don't is I have found so often, if I gave you my roadmap, less than 1% of the people that I work with would ever achieve anywhere near what I achieve because it's my roadmap. It's based on my
Yeah.
conditioning. It's unique to me. So my SMT method, my programs, everything I do is helping you identify that. I start with a vision of what is that endpoint, what's that look like, and all that. And then we start, the SMT method is designed to bring you through a process to start tapping into those beliefs and those patterns and those paradigms, those habits that are causing limitation, even though we don't know they are. And then we can shift those and start opening up the amount of results of what we achieve. And I've worked with almost 1,000 people over the past decade, but some of the highlights for me is I worked with a realtor in 13 years in real estate. The highest year she had was 7.5 million in sales, residential home sales. And when we met, she said, I don't even think I have time to talk to you every week. Her business was spiraling down and she was just doing everything she could do just to try and keep it afloat to not close it. The year we worked together, and it was a little under a year, her sales went from the 7.5, which was her highest year ever, to almost $23 million.
Wow.
In that year. And she has sustained that for over 6 years now, that she has sustained growth regardless of what happens with the market, which is another thing I'll bring up in a minute. But aside from that, Roberto, it was the only year of her adult life that she took 5 weeks of vacation in that same year. And one of them, she got to go to Israel for 2 weeks, which had been on her bucket list for decades. So when and I have story after story after story. When I say that you can achieve greater results by getting into alignment and without additional effort and actually have time to increase your free time in life, I mean that. If I wasn't able to do it, I wouldn't be talking to you right now because I wouldn't be doing the works that I'm doing today.
Yeah. So let's delve into the SMT methods a little bit more and this theory of alignment, because we've both used the word several times in the last 10 minutes or so. Habits is another thing that you talk about. And for most entrepreneurs or self-starters, or even people in the corporate world who are quote unquote successful at what they do, quite steady or are top earners or whatever, they've had to develop some sort of goal alignment system and then a set of habits that they stick to religiously and don't deviate from. And that's what brings them success. But then shifting out of that into, so it's this mindset shift then, but those habits and that way of being can then also create the block that then stops them going further. Do you know what I mean? Because as soon as they start to say, okay, well, maybe I'll take some time off like next month. Oh no, I can't do that because I need to do this, this, and this every single day in order to continue to be successful. And if I break that to go do something else that I actually really want to do, like jump out of a plane, for example, which is something, by the way, that I want to do. And I have no fears about that whatsoever. I dream about it all the time. Like if you said to me, hey, do you want to go hang gliding? I'm like, I've never done it before, but yeah, let's go do it. I'll happily jump off a cliff. Not a problem.
So let me ask you something, Roberto, based on what we're talking about right now. When are you going to jump out of a plane? Have you picked a date?
Yeah, I want to do it in summer 2024.
Okay, we can go forward.
Yeah.
Because so often we'll talk about things like that, but we never take a step. When we decide when we're going to do it, that locks it in now. Yeah. Things will start happening in order for that to come together.
Yeah. July 2024. That's when it's happening.
But there you go. That's beautiful.
Yeah. You see, but that's the thing. But some of this can be irrational. So I'm really interested in how you really get into it with people. And I know your answer could be so many different things because you tailor what you do to the individual, because everybody is different. Everyone thinks different. We've all got different backgrounds and paths that have shaped us into who we are today. But again, things can be so irrational. So for me, it's like, I'll admit, I put off My wife was begging me for months. We need to go to the beach. We need to switch off. We need to get time together, or we're just going to explode. And it took the exploding for me to then go and book the flights and book the trip, right?
Yeah.
But then
Pain,
something
pain
like,
is a great motivator.
yeah, but then something as mundane as overcoming my fear of heights, which, by the way, I've had my entire life up until recently during COVID. We were building our house and then we lost our builders because I didn't want to work because of the pandemic. And so then we had to do a lot of stuff on our own. So, I went from being someone who could not even go 3 steps up a step ladder without shaking uncontrollably, terrible, terrible vertigo, to someone who would scale a scaffolding ladder with no safety harness whatsoever. I really hope our health and safety guys are not listening to this. Up 4 stories
Yeah.
to the crown of our home, balance on the roof like Spider-Man. And one night I did that because it was midnight. The roofers hadn't put the covers back over the windows. It was snowing. There was a gale force wind. I'm on top of the roof at 1 in the morning. My wife calls me, "You're not in bed. Where the hell are you?" And I said, "I'm at the house. I'm on the roof. I can't talk to you right now." She's like, "What the hell are you doing up there?" And I said, "Well, I had to fix the covers because the roofers didn't do it and the alarm went off." And she's like, "That's just insane." But more than the fact that I shouldn't have been up there was the fact that I was up there, zero fear whatsoever. But
Because
then when it
our
comes
logical
back down,
conditioning, go on,
right.
our logical conditioning is that we have to get things done. So you asked me about habits,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
our habits, all it is a set of mental programs stored in the subconscious that we do something over and over and over and over. And that's where so many people get tied into this whole thing where they take the common actions, they live through their habits. And Einstein's theory, they want different results, but they're taking the same common actions. And what I help people understand and then implement is that in order to get uncommon results in our life, we have to take uncommon actions. And it could be as simple as when I was in corporate dealing with companies and organizations that were in bankruptcy. One of the first things I would do is change that habit around with all the problems. We are so programmed and conditioned to look at the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So our attention goes to the problems and we spend our whole life trying to fix problems. And what it does is that we just have more and more and more problems. And we live in that lifestyle like you were talking about. We will go to the beach once this happens, once we get here, we're always striving to try to get someplace so then we can enjoy life. And business owners, I've seen people in their 60s, late 60s, who have started a business in their 30s or 40s and have continued along that pathway. Once I get there, and some people never get there. And so when we get into the place we're in right now, one of the first things I do with organizations in bankruptcy, one of the first things I do when I'm helping somebody with new business development is stop focusing on why it's not there. We are conditioned that it's economy, it's this, it's always something that will put us in
Yeah.
the victim seat, but it never is. We see businesses that just take off during a down economy, and we see businesses who are struggling when things are booming. So it's not the outside conditions. What it is it's the common actions, getting outside the comfort zone, taking uncommon actions, which is the only way to get uncommon results. And it's also about looking at the actions we're taking. Successful people, they don't take certain actions, and that's what we get so tied to, and want to pay people all kinds of money to tell us what actions are the right ones to take to get there. But it's not about taking the right action. It's about getting into alignment with how we take those actions. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when we're taking actions, when we're coming from that place of a vision of a growth of where we want to get to, that's a different action. And it comes about a different way and will lead to further actions beyond that are different than if we're trying to spend our life problem solving. And I'm
Yeah.
telling you, the turnaround at the last company I helped is when I got them to stop talking about all the problems and why we can't and all the hiccups and all that stuff. And I started saying, let's start talking about what's going right. Let's start talking about what's happening. And it was in the foundry industry, and the guy that's in charge of smaller parts, He said, okay, fine. This is after weeks of doing, months actually, of doing this 5 days a week, every morning for 2.5 hours of meeting with the executive team.
Yeah.
And so he said, we had a fallout of, a scrap of fallout of about 38% or whatever it was. And one of my guys came up with this idea, and we did this change and this change. And now it brought us down into the teens for our scrap rate. Well, all of a sudden, the guy on the other side of the room goes, wait a minute. Now, he had the same position, but for the larger parts. And he said, we got that same problem. What did you do? And he told them. And a week later, he came back in there. He goes, our scrap rate dropped to single digits from like 28% scrap to single digits implementing that. And then I could pounce on that and go, see what I mean? What else is going good here? And all of a sudden, in doing that, we could start looking at what's going good. And then we could start building that vision of that. And within 6 months, we found new owners to come in, drop $12 million in the operations, and went from a 3-day-a-month operation to a 5-day-a-week operation, and started building back again.
Yeah.
In business growth, somebody will struggle trying to figure out how to get clients, and you have, it kind of bothers me a little bit on a personal level, is you have these people that talk about, we have your success plan. We know how to get you to there. We know how to do, and I've invested in coaching programs of tens of thousands of dollars because they had that plan and because I fell victim of that. And I would go in there and they told me exactly what they did. But I found out and realized that less than 1% of the people following that pathway will ever achieve near the results the person did that put it together, because they found their pathway. And so what I do in the SMT method and everything is geared is to help you find your method for that, to help you get balance in your life, to help you find what areas, I talk about developing systems of accelerating habits. So I start with a vision, and then from there we start going through and we start identifying what is it you like to do in your business. So often, you ever see somebody on social media doing a live and you can tell they can't stand doing lives? How often do you watch those people for, Roberto? Couple seconds, maybe?
Yeah, exactly. Because they're not engaging you because they're just not in it themselves.
No, you ever see somebody when you put the camera in front of them and you can tell they're home?
Yeah.
Man, they're just flowing, and it's just coming out, and they got the enthusiasm. How long do you watch those people for?
Yeah, I could watch them forever.
And those people are doing what they love to do. The other person is doing something they don't even like to do, but somebody told them they have to in order to be successful. And as business owners, we're either working in our business or on our business, which is a whole different topic. But we get working in the business, doing the things we can't stand because we think that it's going to produce what we want. And someday, that someday promise, that carrot of someday hangs out there for us, and we live off of that.
Yeah.
Today can be the day. Today can be the day when we get into alignment, when we get into that charged mode of energizing. When I was in corporate America, if I had to be in the office for 2 or 3 days in a row after 5 o'clock, man, I was burned out. I was tired. I was exhausted. I was ticked off because I got to be there beyond 5 o'clock and all this stuff. Now I have my office here, and right outside this room is a studio where I do filming and such. And I'll do my stuff during the day and everything I do and such. And like 9 o'clock sometimes at night, I'll go in the studio here and I'll start filming stuff. There's times I'll be in that studio till 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and then I'll go home and I'm so charged up I can't sleep.
Yeah.
The only difference is that I'm in alignment. I've developed systems of accelerating habits that work for me. And because we have systems of accelerating habits that work for me, now I can do those things, and I don't have to fall into that structure of this is all I can do now. I can't do any of this other, like what you were talking about. So I can have more balance. It doesn't mean I have to do it 10 hours every single day, but I have a structure built around what I do that helps taking actions the right way, which leads to greater results.
Yeah. And it's not, because the 80-20 rule comes in here as well, because it's really funny. I was at an event on Wednesday evening, and it was some artist gallery launch thing. I can't remember. I didn't really look at any of the art. They're probably going to listen to this and think I'm an asshole. But anyway, I just got talking to people, and I was catching up with some people I hadn't seen, and I met some new people, and someone there, he is a coach, but he's, again, like you, he's one of those great coaches that has actually walked his talk. Is that the right phrase? Yeah.
Yeah.
He's actually walked his talk.
Yes.
And so, he had a brief conversation with me, and he's very graciously set up a lunch meet with me to invest some time kind of going through some of the stuff that I'm going through and so on. I'm very grateful to him. And he said to me, he said, if you think about your business and think about the clients you serve, who are the people that you really love to work with? And I said to him, well, I love working with like these types of people who let me do my job, who don't question my pricing. They trust me to go in and make that part of their lives easy. They don't question anything they do. They know that if there's a problem, that it's going to get taken care of. I'm basically, when it comes to that area of their life, I'm their guy. And they trust me 100%. Those are my best clients.
Yes.
And he said, and who are the ones that you hate working for? And I was like, well, it's everybody else. So, and he said, if you only spent your time on the clients that you love to work with, they're the ones that when you're doing stuff for them, you're in your flow state, everything is great, you love what you do. How would it affect your business? And I said, well, actually, thinking about it realistically, I'd probably grow my business, because those people only make up about 15% of my clientele. But we have run the numbers before, and I know that 15% bring us over 80% of our profits. So he said to me, the obvious question, which you're probably thinking right now, as you politely nod, what the hell are you still doing with the other 85% of your clientele? They make you miserable.
How would you answer that, Roberto?
I was like, I don't know. I'm like, what am I doing? And I was like, right, I've got to start doing something about this.
Yeah. See, those are the kind of things, and most of the time, and this is why what I do is so helpful to business owners, because most of the time we don't know we're causing the struggle we're experiencing. And then even when we can see it somewhat, we have no idea why. But there's conditioning working below there that does that. For a long time in my business, I love what I do, man. Part of the thing I do is like I was raised in that home with my parents, and man, Roberto, they were really, really good people. And I saw how they beat themselves up based on what later on I would learn was their conditioning and stuff. And my whole purpose of first and foremost was changing my life. I've been the guinea pig of all the works I do today, but it was also to help people never have to live like that, to help business owners not have to miss out on family and end up divorced and distant from their children and everything else because they chose to have a business. It's not supposed to be that way. And so I get really supercharged getting to do what I do today. But I'll tell you, when we go down that pathway and open that up, and it's the reason why I work with a coach in my life, because they can help me see things that are coming from that subconscious that I don't even notice. They feel so natural and normal as a habit. We just automatically go to those ways of being. And so what happens in the bottom line of the SMT, what it helps us do, like I said, identify and shift that conditioning, but we're literally retraining our brain waves so that we can then experience life in a different way. And successful people, one of the things you're learning in what you just said with that is successful people don't do certain things. Successful people don't just take on any client that they can get. Successful people do things a certain way. So one of the things I learned in my business is the way I operate my business is when I work with a client, I have skin in the game with that client. So I've set it up in a way to where I have investment into that client just like they have into the program and such, because then we're truly like partners going through the process together and stuff. And so one of the things I learned to do with that is I qualify the people I work with. So I have what the ideal client is for me. And first and foremost above anything else is they have to be open-minded. We are so conditioned to have to know the answers and figure it out and everything else. And what I tell them, open-minded to me means that it's not that we don't know a bunch of stuff, because we all do. If you're over, if you're a teenager, you know more than everybody else. But even in your 20s, we know a lot of things. A beginner mindset or an open mind means that we take the information and we're asking ourselves, How can I add to what I already know? That's an open mind right there.
Yeah.
And then we start going through that process of that. But every client I work with will say, I had no idea I was even hanging myself up on that. And I go, I know, because I have those same things that, in my life, and we do. And it's being on the lookout for that. So the fact that you can see that only 15% of your ideal client, now how do we take that and move that into the other side so it ends up being 85%? Because I have some clients that as a person, I wouldn't choose to want to work with somebody like that, but I know that they need it, and they have the open mind, and they have the qualifications that say that they're a client, and so I'll work with them as well. So, but it's really about how do you shift that now, and it's not going to happen by going to different areas. And then, there can be some things as far as honing in on what we're doing for our, social, the ads and marketing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But a big part of it is getting the alignment within. And when we get and so this is the other thing I want to bring up here is sometimes I will refer to my mind as the Antichrist, because I have such a logical mind, and a lot of business owners do. And when we get the idea of a business, we start right away, grab a pad of paper, and we start figuring out the strategy. How am I going to do it? What actions am I going to take? And we're planning all this stuff and all these efforts and all this activity that lead to massive actions and exhaustive efforts that bring us minimal, if any, results to it. When we can get into alignment, we have two of our mental faculties I work off of the most is our imagination. And we use that, we get that endpoint of that vision of what that's like and everything else. And once we get to there, we also have intuition. So once we put this vision on, instead of trying to strategically determine what I'm going to do, we can let our intuition roll around with that whole thing. And part of this is law of attraction and stuff, but we can let our intuition start telling us what actions to do. You ever be driving and all of a sudden you get an idea? It's like, oh my God, I never even thought that would be a huge. We think there's a hap chance every once in a while, but we actually have the power to get into alignment with those to happen constantly, every day, continually. If I get up and I get an idea of something to do, I will literally grab an extra coffee some mornings and sit in my recliner and recline it back. And with the whole emphasis being, I'm not moving out of this recliner until an action shows up I can take. I know I can think of actions, but I'm tired of living that way. I want to get into alignment and let the action show me, and every single time it does. And that's what that breaking away and going to the beach was for you, or what hang gliding is for me, is we give our minds enough of a break to where we can really tap into power to help us, that brings greater results to us. And that's why we can go away and disconnect and our business will grow. It's like we got the problem out of the way, which can be this.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I mean, now you probably know Wade Gold, the 3-day weekend entrepreneur. He's part of our Podmatch community. Wade is an awesome coach. I interviewed him. We really connected. I went on his podcast and we've stayed friends after the event. He's out in Florida. I've actually made him clothes without ever meeting him in person. We're rectifying that next summer, but because we will be meeting up in June, and hopefully he and his family will stay with us. But anyway, the point is that so when I was away the last 2 weeks of August, I sat on the beach and healing body, mind, catching up with sleep, all of those good things. And then I did not take my work cell phone with me, and I kept saying to people 2 weeks before, my clients were like, "Oh, you're going." I'm like, "I'm not here the second half of August. I'm not here. We're closed." Mm-hmm. How do I reach you? You don't. What do you mean you don't? I promise you right now, the second I walk out the door to get in the cab to go to the airport, I'm switching my work phone off and I'm going to throw it back inside my house as far as I can. And I don't care what happens to it. So you don't reach me. I'm not your heart surgeon. I'm just your tailor. And that was actually my out of office message as well.
Yeah.
I didn't do I'm on vacation until the 31st of August. Yeah. I didn't do that. I just told the truth in my out of office. The response was great. I think that also helped people just to completely try and the other thing I did, Jerry, I locked myself out of all of our work systems. It's a bit like I don't know, like an alcoholic or something, like putting combination locks on all of the drinks cabinets
Yeah.
and then scrambling the numbers, but not making a note of what the numbers were, just to
Yeah.
try and stop them and taking all the hammers out of the house and stuff. But it was literally like that because we become like addicts with our businesses, right? You get so tempted to, oh, I'm going to switch off for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
The business will survive. I'm not going to check my emails. I'm not going to check my phone. And then by day 2, you're getting the phone out of the hotel safe and you're logging onto Wi-Fi and I'll just have a look and see what's going on. Before you know it, your vacation's out the
You're
window
back
because
into
you
it.
got straight back into that black hole.
Yeah.
So I made damn sure, and it was out of necessity because I was really gone. Like I was not interested anymore.
Yeah.
And so I locked myself out of everything. And then what I made sure that I did, it was exercise, sleep, spending quality time with my wife. I took 4 books with me, including Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, Blue Ocean Strategy, a book by Angela Taylor George, Haute Couture. She founded a few big fashion brands in New York in the 70s and 80s. And then the biography of a soccer player who's my absolute hero. And I tore through them all in the space of 5 days. I turned over so many pages. And what Wade taught me, to come back to my point, is that I used to say to him, he'd be like, say he starts our calls off with, "Hey man, how's it going?" And I'm like, yeah, it's okay. I'm a bit tired, but it's been another busy month. I don't know where next month's going to go because I've got a couple of days that are looking a bit quiet. There's a bit of empty gap in my diary. And he'd say to me, "So what? So what? You haven't got customers to see for 3 hours on Monday? Use that time to work on your business, to read a book, educate yourself,
Well, you
do the
bring up,
things that you." But we never do that. Most entrepreneurs will basically find themselves with some free time and they'll panic. And instead of looking at the bigger picture, they'll then find some other small problem, some, like you described it, a squeaky wheel to focus on, to try and fill that time instead. And by the time they've fixed 500 squeaky wheels, they've either stood still and not moved forward, or they've actually slid backwards in the grand scheme of what they want to try and achieve in life.
Yeah,
And
and
so I
part
think
of that,
it's,
the bottom line of it, Roberto, is if we don't do something to change the conditioning, you talked about that trip, and it's great you went on that trip. But when we do things out of burnout, it's a different experience. And even as you describe it, you go into it with an anger and kind of like overcoming
yeah,
burnout versus going into it with joy and expansiveness and just delight and all of that and stuff. And
yeah,
so when but most of the time we get in that squeaky wheel, we get into that other mode and such, we will take time to go do something like that. And then we're still not present where we're at. We're
yeah,
living out there trying to get to that point, that carrot that's hanging out there. And we don't and until we do something about shifting that conditioning and putting new programming in place, so we start triggering new brainwaves a different way to take the actions, then we don't get anything different, or we continue struggling. You talked about like how that for you with lock and changing passwords and everything was kind of like the alcoholic, and I understand what you mean by that. And it's that we're trying to trap ourselves into doing the things we should be doing with joy. We do all the work we do so that we have the life
yeah,
that we want to have, and then we literally fight ourselves to enjoy that time, and we consider that the right way of living and such. Within the United States, you guys don't work as many hours on a verbatim, on average, than what the United States. I mean, it's a continuous, nonstop, always active, having to do it to get there, and we spend our whole life trying to get there. And we don't ever enjoy the areas where we're there right now. And so as we
yeah,
do that and start bringing balance, I have another client of mine. When I met him, he had a wholesale business he'd been running for 5 years. He was doing right on an average of about $34,000 a month in sales. And so we started working together. And one of the first things I told you I do is I start helping develop. I have road mapping tools for developing a dynamic vision. What does that endpoint look like? And we power that up and really lean into that side of things. And do you know he could not get past $50,000 a month revenue, because at $50,000 a month, he would have enough to pay everything, and he could start dwindling down that line of credit he had been using for 5 years to cover the gap between what he was,
Right.
revenue
Yeah.
coming in
Yeah.
and what his
Yeah.
expenses were. And so we worked together, and I did exactly what I do with my clients, and I got him to about $125,000 a month revenue. And we started putting it on, we started building it up to where he could start believing in it and everything else. And do you know, within 7 months, 8 months, he ended up going to continuing to average $250,000 a month, and he peaked at almost 300,000. So he
Wow.
literally took his business within 8 months from a $300,000 a year business to a $3 million business. And now he just called me a week and a half ago, and we've been done working together for a while, and he's maintained that, 250 to $300,000 a month. He's maintained now. He didn't add different marketing. He didn't add additional team. He has added one more person to handle the orders. He hasn't revamped his business. He hasn't done all this massive actions and exhaustive efforts that people say to do. He did exactly what the SMT method is designed to do. He got into alignment with that. And aside from the 250 a month revenue, is he had more time. Him and his wife just had their third child, so he has more time with his family. He's renting a house now on a lake nearby where he lives, and they're spending time there and stuff. And he's thinking about buying one and stuff. And so he called me a week and a half ago, and we're catching up. And I go, "How you doing?" He goes, "Man, I'm frustrated." And I go, "Why?" And he goes, "Because I can't break that $300,000 a month revenue." And I did exactly what you did, Roberto. I just started laughing. And I told him, I go, "Think about this. Less than 2 years ago, you had a line of credit you were using. You were struggling at $34,000 a month. You're at $250,000 now. And I understand, and you're frustrated you can't get above three. That's great, because that's a human condition." He goes, "Well, I want to work with you. I want to get up to $500,000. Now, this is a guy who couldn't get past $50,000 a couple years ago, who's now looking at $500,000 and has belief going into it that it's possible.
Yeah.
And when I tell people this stuff, some people will just turn it off and go, "That's not realistic. There's no way that can happen." And it's our conditioning that tells us that I have to live in this realistic realm, that if I'm a business owner, 25% growth would be great of what I can expect to grow year over year over year. So if you're telling me somebody went from 7.5 to 23 million, or from $43,000 a month to 250, I just won't believe that. And they'll stay stuck in that place. But once we start tapping into it and opening up those avenues, those same people who can't see above $50,000 a month are now looking and can see $500,000. That's exactly how the process works right there.
Yeah. Do you think through the process, God, I could talk to you forever. You're amazing. I'm so, so glad that the universe brought us together.
So my
Yeah. But I know I can't hold on to you forever. So obviously I'm going to have to wrap this up at some point. Do you think, through the process of the SMT method and so on, do you think there's a big element of people getting to a place where they shed a lot of fear?
Oh, fear is a huge part of what I do. When I talked about that, you said you have no fear at all of jumping out of an airplane. That's great. I don't know how to live like that. I was scared shitless walking off of that 2,000-foot mountaintop with that
Yeah,
hang
I
glider the
bet.
first time. And I'd been through training and everything else. But what fear is what we do is we right sizes of fear, is really what it is. We have a comfort zone we live in. When we live in our beliefs, when we live within our conditioning and our patterns and our habits, we're living within a comfort zone. But what we want is outside of that comfort zone. What we want is to experience from $43,000. We're comfortable in that. We get comfortable running our business at whatever level it's at, because we get used to it. When you bring a number like $250,000 a month, it becomes uncomfortable. That ignites fear. That's fear right there.
Yeah.
And then if I get there, and so many people I come up that I meet with Roberto and talk to, and we
Sorry,
talk about
Jerry,
this,
I
they go,
just to
"Well,
explain the
what?"
expression I just gave you when you said that. I'm saying yeah to you, but I'm kind of now I've moved into a place where when you're saying, going from 50 to 250,000, my immediate instant reaction to that is, yeah, yeah. How? That's the question. That's the question I'm personally asking. But I have been that person before.
Yeah,
That's, okay, going at steady.
yeah.
It's fine.
And and
My
even part of
Maslow's hierarchy of needs is being met by this. I don't need
even
to
part
push
of
my.
what you said there, as soon as you said how, that's conditioning. That's our conditioning that says I got to figure it out how. Let me ask you this. Do you care how, or do you just want to be there?
Well, I mean, if I could click my fingers and be there, I would.
So if
But
you
there's got
got,
to
and
be a
this is
how,
exactly
right?
well, there's a reason I'm asking you this, Roberto, because what will happen is we'll get an idea, we'll hear something like that, and we'll go, okay, how do I do it? It's not about the how. We let go of the how. Coincidences out of the blue, things like that happening. We can't orchestrate that. We can't strategize those things from happening. So what I do with my clients is I stay away from the how and we get into alignment with that vision. We put energy into it and we start looking for those actions that will lead us there rather than sitting down up front and trying to figure out the entire how. And that's what a lot of coaching programs will do is say, we
Yeah,
have your how. We have your
yeah,
how, but
yeah.
they don't.
That's exactly
They have
it. Because
their how in what worked for them. That's not going
yeah,
to work for you or me. What I did isn't going to work for you or somebody else as far as the how part of it. Your how is specific to you. It's specific to your conditioning. It's specific to your vision of what you want, that how. So when we can get into alignment with trusting the action steps, again, imagination for the vision, intuition for the how. When we can get into alignment with that, all of a sudden we're driving down a car in our car and we get this spark idea of something to do. I'm putting together. You and I were talking ahead of time. I'm putting together a survey that business
yeah,
owners can take right now, and it's all about, are you in alignment with the growth you want to experience? Or is it just a pipe dream? Because if you're not in alignment with it, it's a pipe dream. So they can go through the survey and then it's specifically and scientifically designed to ask questions to be able to take those responses and see, is this coming from old past conditioning that's no longer serving you? Or is this coming from the other side of alignment and helping people understand that side of things with it? That's the how of it, is we don't worry about strategizing. We get out of living from here to come up with the how for what we want. And we
yeah.
get into that alignment between building the vision and putting energy into it, and then allowing the action steps to show us that pathway. That's when they talk about, life is about the journey and not the destination. That's it right there. But once we identify what that is, once you understand how that how for you, now, Roberto, you can take that to any area of your life, any business that you want to start or you're excited about or something, and it'll apply the same way over and over and over again. But if you tell somebody else how to do it and they follow that, they're not going to get the results you get.
Yeah. I love that. That's so much more energizing and so much more, it feels more natural
It
because,
is.
the traditional, what everybody said, and this is even some people that I've become friends with and who have given me ad hoc coaching and stuff. But this is the first time that I've heard it in that way, which is, because usually it is literally, where are you now? Where would you get to if you had no limitations, etc.? Where would you like to be? Okay, great. So now we know the destination. Let's do it like a satellite navigation tool, plug that in, and then figure out the exact steps and what we exactly need to do. And then, okay, fine. So now I've got this kind of formula and you've given me all this freaking homework. There's no passion in that whatsoever because now I've just got more stuff to do. I already had a ton of stuff to do, fixing squeaky wheels and things and not really getting anywhere in life. Now I've got more stuff to do.
And Roberto,
But
that
there's no
plan
passion with there because what's it actually aligned to? Because I'm not being constantly reminded of actually what the bigger picture is, right?
and the plan you just described will lead anybody to the point of burnout where they put a message and said, I'm not available, and they throw their phone as far across the room as they can, and they take off to a beach someplace and stuff, and lead to things like that. And
Yeah.
then we don't even get as much out of those times when we're there and stuff because of the way we did it. That's what that strategizing and the intention of our mind, the purpose of our mind was to help us to solve complex problems. It wasn't to strategize our pathway and come up with every action we need to take and live off of exhaustive to-dos and squeaky wheels and all that bullshit, excuse my language, all of that
No,
stuff.
go
It's
for
not
it.
intended to do that. It's intended when I'm putting together the survey for business owners. It's intended to help me say, how do I want to ask this in a way that helps me get information to find out whether this is conditioning or not. That's what the purpose of our mind is for. But we just exhaust it trying to live our strategies when we have perfectly more powerful capabilities in our intuition and other avenues to allow to bring those to us. And all we have to do is get into alignment. At the beginning of this, I think before we recorded, is I told you, I use business growth and less effort is the vehicle of helping people change their lives. But at the core of what I do, it's personal transformation. It's helping people get their life in that flow state of allowing. And when in doing that, so when I'm working with somebody, it's not just their business that grows. It's not just their free time to go golfing and somebody, their entire life, their relationships, everything about their existence, transforms through the process of doing so.
Yeah. Wow. And wow. Okay, right. You've interrupted my thinking in like 200 different ways. Thank you so, so much. And people can jump on a call with you if they want to. Anyone who's listening to this, who's as energized and as inspired and impacted as I am, I feel so privileged sitting here right now. And I'm actually going to take your survey, by the way, because I've already got the window up. That's live now, right? scale.ifgtcoach.com/home. I'll put that and the other link I'm about to give you in the show notes. But that's the address, right? So it's a survey to help business owners make sure that you're in alignment with the business development and growth that you want to experience.
Yes. And it's scale.ifgtcoach.com/home.
Yeah, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Good.
And then I'll report back. Well, no, I won't report back because then you'll get the results and then
I'll
you'll be in
report
touch with
back to
me.
you. Yes. Yeah. And part of that whole thing that's really cool about it is by completing the survey, you'll get a report back and it'll let you know whether you're in alignment or if you're not, and what areas to look at and things like that. So you could just take the report and go, okay, so I'm going to try and do this stuff. But on top of that, because I want to have an impact in people's life, I'm offering people can set up a free conversation with me, which is typically would be a $550 value to business owners and such. And they can set up that conversation and we can spend 45 minutes or so just really deep diving and getting laser focus into, okay, how is this area? And helping people identify the specific areas where the conditioning is causing them limitation. Because I just want to say this is there is never a condition outside of ourselves that would hold us back. The economy, the competition, the whatever it is, that nothing can hold us back. But we can only ever go as far as our subconscious conditioning will allow us.
Yeah. We're the ones that get in our own way.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And to book a conversation with Joey, if again you're listening to this and you're like, just give me the goddamn link, Bobby, for God's sake. It's coachwithjoey.com. That's coachwithjoey.com. Really, really easy. You can schedule a 10-minute conversation with Joey. He'll give you some tools so that you can immediately start bringing about change and results in your life. But then if you want that longer call with him with a view to potentially working with him as your coach, then you want to go to scale.ifgtcoach.com/home. And that's the survey that will help you to work out where you are in terms of alignment, your business development, growth, etc. Joey, thank you so, so much. Have you had fun today?
Oh, this is so enjoyable. God, Roberto, I told you my passion and why it's my passion, like getting to have these conversations. This is me living my life.
Yeah, I can tell. I can tell, honestly. I mean, hopefully we'll put the video of this out one day, but just for people listening, Joey is genuine. Like the energy, the connection. I genuinely, when I said I could speak to him forever, it's I really, really mean it. And this guy really does want to help people. He has walked his talk. And I know that he genuinely, when he starts working with people, he really, really is invested in them. And that is so lacking in so much of the coaching that's banded around these days. People promising that they will change your life in 24 hours and take you from zero to $100,000 a month and all this nonsense. That is not what Joey is about. Joey, you are about helping people getting right in there, rewiring their circuit boards, and actually setting them up for the rest of their lives.
Absolutely, absolutely, and Roberto, with what you're doing too, and the impact that you're having, and allowing avenue for these conversations, just being who and how you are with this and stuff, is just amazing. And anybody listening to this, if this sparks it, I'll like it, comment things like that, but also share it with somebody, because you may be you listening to this right now and it having some kind of a spark or impact on you. You may be the only avenue to open up somebody else's life in the ways that Roberto covers on this podcast and stuff. So feel free to share that with people, tell them to listen to it, and then, like I said, like and comment on it
Yeah,
yourself.
no, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I don't even need to do my usual outro because Joey's just done it better than I've ever done it in 120 odd episodes. But he's absolutely right, as well as subscribing, rating, reviewing, because all of these algorithms, that's what helps people find the show. But this specific episode, if there's someone, even one person that you're thinking of outside of yourself that you think could benefit from the conversation that Joey and I have had today, and knowing about Joey and the work that he does, click that share button in your player right now and send this episode link onto that person, because you might just give them the help that they need. Joey, thank you so, so much. I really, really appreciate you. I can't wait to do this again. I'm going to take the survey. Let's go down that rabbit hole, and then maybe we could get back together in a couple months' time to report back, because I am right now in the middle of taking on our first client experience space and studio outside of the workroom. I'm taking that big, big step.
Yes.
And I'm strangely calm about it as well. We are launching a second business because our custom footwear business has taken off. And we haven't even done any marketing. It's just kind of soft launch within our own clientele. But while I was away, I have told my wife that the shoe business needs to be its own thing. So once we've done the move, we're then going to set that up as a separate company. So then I'm going to have two babies on my hands.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot going on, and everything that we've talked about today is swimming around in mine and Carolina's brains.
Yeah.
So the universe has now brought you to me this week as well. So
Yeah. Maybe
I'm
Roberto, maybe,
open.
after you go through the survey and we'll follow it through, and you and I'll have the call, maybe we can come back on if you want to share with, if you're okay
Yeah,
sharing with your audience
yeah,
exactly what changes come about as a result of that for you. That would be a awesome thing to do. And let me just say one other thing, and I'll say God bless and let you go,
yeah,
is,
yeah.
you talked about that with the studio, which is a huge, huge step. I mean, that's not a small baby, like that's a huge step out in faith in doing that. And the reason you feel calm is because you're in alignment with it. And when we get into alignment, when we get into that flow, it doesn't have all that fear. It has more of the excitement of what we're achieving and the impact it's going to have than we do that fear. So this has been so awesome. Man. I really, really appreciate you. I feel like I have a new best friend here.
Oh, thank you. No, honestly, thank you so much. And like I say, I don't need to do the usual outro because you lot all know what it is. But Joey did it better than I ever could. So all I'm going to say is check Joey out, follow the links in the show notes, do that survey. Thank you all so much for being with Joey and I today. Have a great week. Be good to each other. And I will see you on the next one. Thank you so much, Joey. I meant
Oh,
every
great
single word I've said.
conversation.
Seriously.
Yeah, great conversation.